Hello, this is Angela with Parkrose Permaculture. I hope you are enjoying your holiday season. I am here to remind you that it is time to start thinking about not the holidays that we're in right now, but forward to our 2022 gardening season. So today I'd like to cover 10 things that you want to think about when it comes to ordering seeds from a catalog. I know it may feel like gardening time is way off in the spring, but now is the time to start hitting those seed catalogs because their stocks start to diminish as everybody starts to order. So December is the time. I used to wait until January to order seeds from seed catalogs, and then I would find that several things I wanted were already out of stock. So if my catalogs come in December, I am placing my orders in December. So here's 10 things that I think are really good to keep in mind and to consider as you are making purchases from seed catalogs. Number one, take a good assessment of what you grew in the last year and what you enjoyed eating. What are things that were real winners in your garden and things you would love to grow again? And then put those at the top of your list. For me, I found that there are several things that are in my garden year after year after year, and I don't ever want to rotate them out because they are just such winners in terms of their production, in terms of their flavor, in terms of their storage potential, in terms of their disease resistance. And so I make sure that those are the first things that I order if I need to order seeds. Number two, it's really easy when we are looking through those beautiful catalog pages. Some of them are just these gorgeous glossy color photos. I really love Fedco because it's just newsprint and black and white and not quite so tempting. But if you're looking through those seed catalogs, everything looks good and the descriptions tend to be enthusiastic in terms of the flavor and how well these seeds are going to do as veggies in your garden. And so it's really tempting to over order. So I think it's important before you start marking everything in the seed catalog, yes, I'm gonna get all of this, and order way too much. How much space do you have in your garden? What is realistic for you to grow? Take a good look at how much space you have, not only in your garden, but also in your seed starting area. For me, that is my window seat and my sunroom. And so because we're still building our greenhouse. And so I don't want to order more things than I have room to start indoors and more things than I have room to plant outside. In fact, you should check out my video from this past spring about why I no longer start my tomatoes from seeds. I actually just buy starts. So think about whether it's really realistic for you to be starting that quantity of seeds in your house, and then whether you have that much space in your garden for that quantity of plants. And have a little bit of restraint. It can be really hard, but maybe just get 5 varieties of winter squash instead of 9 that you wanted to. That's what I did last. Number 3, take a realistic look at how much time you have to devote to seed starting, particularly in the seasons of the year in which you need to be doing the seed starting. It can be really easy when I'm looking at the catalog in December to think gosh, yeah, I have tons of time to be starting my eggplants and my peppers and my physalis and my tomatoes in late January, early February, and then I get to that part of my year and it is crazy busy and I'm overwhelmed with stuff every year and I'm always late starting those things from seed. So just take I'm going to say a lot of times in this video, take a realistic look at XYZ, take a realistic look at your calendar for late winter and decide whether you are going to be able to start these things from seed and care for them on a daily basis. In nice days in April, am I going to be okay with shifting all my tomato and pepper and tomatillo seedlings outside into the sunshine and then pulling them back under cover at night? Is that a daily chore I want to obligate myself to? Number 4, check your stash. I have boxes and boxes of old seeds that I keep in my mudroom, and I always try and go through all of those before I order things from a seed catalog. I go through and cull anything that's like super, super old. And when I say cull, I mean, I don't throw it away or even compost it. It goes in a box where in the spring, I will broadcast those seeds in an area of the chicken run that is cordoned off and let them all sprout and germinate, whatever small percentage are still viable, and they'll become chicken snacks. So I go through and I cull anything into the chicken snack pile, and then I look and see like what has enough in here that I don't really need to reorder more. Seeds can have viability for 10 years or more. Now, carrot seeds lose viability very quickly, and that is something where I would encourage you not to plant old seed. But other seeds can last for many, many years. In fact, one year I was gifted 15-year-old beet seeds, and I had above 80% germination on them. So just be aware that just because a seed is a couple of years old, it doesn't mean that it is no good to plant in your garden. So I typically plan for about 50% germination from old seeds when I take an assessment as to whether I have enough to plant out next year or whether I need to order more. Number 5, take a good assessment of your budget. So easy to overspend. And I know there's a lot of jokes about like, oh, I spent $76 and all I got was this one tomato. Like gardening is so expensive as a hobby goes. I don't find that it is expensive. And one of the reasons is because I stick really religiously to my budget. So for me, I want to be able to produce food that is organic and nutritious and packed with vitamins and minerals and costs less than at the grocery store or farmer's market. Now, I'm not going to compare an organic tomato to a cheap, pithy, withered, pale, anemic version of a tomato in the grocery store, but I am going to compare how much it costs me to produce my beautiful, tasty array of garden tomatoes versus buying organic at the farmer's market or Whole Paycheck or something like that. I want it to be cost effective for me. So be sure that you are adhering to your budget. It can be so tempting to stray and just say, I'll just buy like another 4 or 5 packets. And then suddenly gardening becomes an expensive hobby instead of efficient production of food. So I know it's really hard, but see what you can trim back and stay within your budget. Number 6, how are you planning to use the food that you grow? Do you need to grow just enough for fresh eating? One of my favorite authors, Harriet Fastenfest, talks about having a salad garden where you grow just enough to have a little side salad on your plate in the spring and summer months. Or do you want to grow enough that you are canning and freezing and thinking about producing your whole autumn and winter and late winter and early spring's supply of vegetables that are dehydrated or canned or frozen? Are you growing for a food bank? Are you doing the Plant a Row for a food bank program? If you're doing that, take that into account when you are purchasing seed. I would say most folks err on the side of purchasing far too much seed and having way more than they know what to do with. But just be aware, if you are wanting to grow enough tomatoes that you can can a whole year's worth of sauce and stewed tomatoes for your family, then maybe you would be better off purchasing multiple kinds of tomatoes from seeds and starting 50 or 80 plants for your garden. But for me, I typically grow about 20 tomato plants because while I do make homemade tomato sauce and I do freeze a huge quantity of it, I actually purchased from a local farmer for that. And so I don't need to worry about cramming in 80 tomato plants. The most I've grown at one time is 45 tomato plants, and I had tomato plants everywhere. And at that time I was growing for a food bank program. And so I had no problem dealing with the excess, but in general, I plan on how much am I going to source from my own garden, and if I'm preserving, how much am I going to source from local farmers. Number 7, do you care about organic seed production, or is that not a high priority for you? You can add $2 or $3 or sometimes $4 to the cost of a seed packet by choosing to get something that is produced organically. Now, obviously, if you value organic methods and you want to support farmers who use those methods, that's awesome. If you are growing for a farmer's market and you want to label your produce as organic, it needs to be started with seed that is produced organic. I prefer organically grown. I sometimes will buy seeds that are not grown using organic methods. Sometimes it's because it's what's on sale. Sometimes it's because it is what is available. But I make sure that I grow them using organic methods that are regenerative, and that is okay for me. So that's my compromise. I don't always have the budget to purchase organic seeds, but I do make sure that the methods I use to grow my plants are organic. So you need to decide for yourself, because that influences how much you're willing to spend per packet, and it influences obviously what seed suppliers you use. Number 8, speaking of seed suppliers, are you sourcing your seeds ethically? So that depends on what your ethics look like to you. Are you supporting small business owners, small family farms that are then supplying a seed company? Are you supporting big agribusiness? And that might be a problem for you. Are you supporting seed companies that pay fair wages? These are all things to think about. I think it's also important, there are some seed companies that have pretty strong political and ideological leanings that you may not be in agreement with. So it depends on how far you want to go, but I think it is really important, if we are permaculturists, we are conscious consumers, and that includes our seed consumption and where we are purchasing our seed stash from every year. So as long as we're talking about ethical producers of seeds, these are my favorite seed companies that I buy from pretty much every single year. And they're ones that I know support small family farmers, and they're ones that I feel comfortable sourcing my seeds from. They are Fedco in Maine, which is a long way away. And as I've said before, shipping seeds are very small and lightweight, and so I don't feel bad about ordering something from all the way across the country. I really believe in Fedco as a business, and I think they've been fabulous for all the years I've ordered from them. Johnny Select Seed, Territorial Seed Company, High Mowing, Strictly Medicinal, Seed Savers Exchange, and Sustainable Seed Co., and I will list all of those in the description, are all seed companies that I feel comfortable purchasing from. Obviously, none of them sponsor me. I'm not paid to say that I like these companies. And there are other companies that I have bought from, especially at the end of the season when there are seed packets on sale at the plant nursery. But those are just some of the ones that I know and trust. Number 9, know your land, know your climate, know your growing season. It's really easy to see a big, beautiful watermelon in that catalog and think, dang, I am going to grow that in my garden this year. For me in the Pacific Northwest, I have a very hard time getting large melons to ripen. Yes, we've had a couple of years of drought and heat waves, but typically here, despite the fact that I have a very long growing season, it is fairly cool, and large melons don't ripen very well here without a lot of babying. So for me, I understand not only what my quality of my soil is like let's say you want to grow broccoli, it doesn't like a highly acidic soil. So not only the soil conditions and the lay of my land, but I understand what is going on in my climate and what the growing season is like, and I want to pick my seeds appropriately according to the conditions of my property. So those giant watermelons, those are out. I get some of the smaller Siberian ones that are able to ripen to maturity, even if we have a cooler summer. Number 10, this is the last one, and I think this one is really important. It folds into the permaculture ethics of earth care, but also people care and also fair share. What are you going to do with your seeds? How are you going to organize your seed sourcing? And by that, I mean, are you thinking of forming a seed co-op, using your local seed library, doing a seed swap with folks in your neighborhood? If you're going to do a co-op, are y'all going to pool your resources together, sit down, spread out the catalogs, decide what y'all want to order, and then when it comes, divvy up the seed packets so that everybody gets an equitable share? Or are you going to all decide what to order together and then divvy up who is responsible for starting what kinds of seed? Maybe you're the person in your seed co-op who is in charge of starting all of the tomatillos. So your kitchen windowsill or your sunroom may have 200 tomatillo starts in it. You'll get together with your 4 buddies and y'all will then divide all of the plants up. So you will partition up all of your tomatillos and they will give you the peppers and tomatoes that they've been starting, and it will all even out that way. Or maybe you just want to distribute the seeds. So something to think about in terms of organizing how you're going to start the seeds, how you're going to order them, how you're going to share them. I think this is really important. Seed libraries are super important, a really great community resource. Because when you order a packet of tomato seeds, it comes with 200 seeds in it. Or if you order a packet of melon seeds, there might be 25 or 50 seeds in there. And most of us don't have space for 25 melon plants. But if we all kind of share, we can divide the cost and divide the resources. Therefore, we're all spending less on our garden, we're having less waste, and we're fostering community connections. And I think that's really important. You also might consider starting a few extra seeds in order to put in your local Buy Nothing group as starts. That's a great gift you can give to folks in your neighborhood. Starting just a few extra and then saying, hey friends, I actually have a half dozen extra zucchini plants. Does anybody want one? So I hope that list of 10 things helps you. I hope that you'll kind of tick off that list as you are making your seed purchases. I am going to sit down right now with my Fedco catalog and order some of my favorites. I'm really, really excited about the garden for next year. And I hope that you all are getting excited too. I think it's good to have those little kind of bursts of anticipation, those little moments where I'm tired at this time of year. I don't really want to be out in the mud that much, but I can kind of think ahead to next year and kind of build up that anticipation. So when the time rolls around for me to actually be gardening, I'm like super into it. I'm ready to go. I'm raring to go. And so I think looking at those seed catalogs and thinking through how I'm going to actually be utilizing the seeds in the spring is a really, really great way for me to get engaged in the process of my garden for the next year. And I hope that it is similarly inspiring and engaging for you as well. If you enjoyed this video, please consider clicking like and subscribe. I'm really close to 15,000 subscribers, and that would be awesome if I could get there like in the next week or something. That would be amazing. I also have a Patreon down in the description, and I will be back next time from my permaculture garden in Portland, Oregon. Thanks.